Thank you for the opportunity to talk about an area of work very close to my heart these days, public interest tech. First, a bit of context about me and the influences that framed my interests. I'm currently a professor of computer science and associate dean for impact at Cornell Tech. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, raised by civic-minded technologist parents. And I went to study electrical engineering and computer science at UC Berkeley for my undergrad, and then grad school at MIT, straddling mainstream systems and networking with technology policy. When I finished, I focused on internet protocol design as an assistant professor at USC and ISI, and was very active in the internet research community for over a decade. In the first decade of the 2000s, I was at UCLA, where I built an NSF center focused on wireless sensing and its applications. And in 2013, I joined Cornell Tech, a campus of Cornell University in New York City, which was created to be a center for research and graduate education in computer and information sciences and engineering disciplines. Since Cornell Tech's inception, the societal and economic impacts of technology have only become more profound. And with that has come a growing desire across our technical community of students, researchers, and working professionals to shape technology to serve public needs, such as those addressed by your IEEE Global Humanitarian Technology Conference community. I was intrigued when I first heard the term public interest tech. And so when it was time for my sabbatical in 2019, and with the moral wins in my sails of being named a MacArthur Fellow, I found the framing both inspiring and grounding. Then in the fall of 2020, coming out of my sabbatical and with seed funding from the Atlantic Philanthropies, we launched the Public Interest Tech initiative at Cornell Tech, which we fondly call PiTech. It's dedicated to fostering this next generation of innovators, leaders, and thinkers who will guide technology towards positive societal outcomes. I'll start by describing a few projects stretching back over the past decade plus that influenced my thoughts about how to weave public interest tech into the work of emerging technologies and technologists. Then I'll return to the origins of the term itself and talk about the specific programs that we've built at Cornell Tech. So first, in my own collaborative research, starting over a decade ago, we started to pivot some of our wireless sensor network explorations to what we called participatory sensing. This was joint work with many, and in particular, Jeff Burke, Mark Hansen, Sasank Reddy, and Eric Graham, all at UCLA at the time. We leveraged the phone camera imagers as sensors and the mobility and broad observational capability of the humans carrying those phones, and applied it to structured observations through what we called at the time data campaigns. To give you a few examples, Garbage Watch was used by a student group to create a campaign to bring more recycling bins to the campus. What's Invasive was developed for our local park service to help hikers spot invasive plants that were growing on parklands to allow for their rapid eradication in order to protect native species. And a third project was used by a community organization to collect data in support of constructing a new youth community center by having high school students document patterns of a typical week, how they traveled to school, where they went after school, where they did their homework, and so forth, all using the same underlying software platform and capabilities. These examples leverage geocoding and cloud-based image analysis, with also a fair amount of human assistance, as it was long before deep learning transformed computer vision. It was my first engagement with adapting technology to serve a public interest need, including needs that were hyper-local and of modest scale, but important to that particular community, and emphasized for me the importance of being able to create technology and products that could address smaller scale needs than were typically addressed by larger scale commercial initiatives. Evolving out of the participatory sensing work, I then became increasingly focused on a particular application domain of mobile phone-based sensing called mobile health. We were creating capabilities for individuals to leverage their personal devices to document and measure their individual health, symptoms, side effects, and daily rhythms as feedback for their doctors to adapt treatment and also for themselves to inform their own care. Having started out working in internet protocol development, I thought one way to encourage the growth and innovation and impact in this space was to make these patient-generated health data available and actionable through an open standard across providers and conditions and for patients. So in 2010, Dr. Ida Sim and I founded a nonprofit with funding from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to support this emerging mobile health community. In our Science Viewpoint article published at the time, we drew the analogy to the great public benefit of initial internet infrastructure and architecture investment, which benefited all players, not just a single company. That work and approach continues with the Commons Project in their Common Health Initiative. As an important aside, I'm compelled to point out to some text that was redacted from this slide. In the paper, we commented, the payoff from this investment created a commercially viable and largely self-governing ecosystem for innovation. Well, we know that self-governing did not work out quite so well for us across internet-based platforms. And that is an important lesson about the need for addressing the importance of law and policy in society, in socio-technical systems in order to protect the public interest. But now let me return to two more important examples of tech designed to address public needs. First, around the same time as the participatory sensing and mobile health work, Nithya Ramanathan and Martin Lukács met as PhD students in my group at UCLA. And as they approached graduation, they developed a vision of addressing global challenges through available and affordable sensor technology. They founded Nexleaf in 2009 and are still at it, doing great work on a truly global scale, from monitoring cook stove pollution to monitoring cold chain storage for vaccines. The last example I want to give is the remarkable mission-driven research and impact work of my colleagues, Nikki Dell and Tom Ristenpart. Basically, this is what happened when an HCI researcher and a security researcher walked into a bar, and in this case, started talking about the overlooked security attacks faced by individuals who do not have complete control over their own devices. I think some of the origin of this work was Nikki's early research on shared phone use in low resource global communities. And in any case, it led to the development of a tech clinic to support victims of intimate partner violence whose phones were being abused as vectors by their predator domestic partners. It resulted both in best paper awards at top conferences and in the implementation of software and services designed to address the needs of intimate partner violence victims. And it led to the foundation of the founding of the Clinic to End Tech Abuse, CETA. This is an inspiring tech in the public interest story. With that, let me now return, with those few examples, let me return to public interest tech more broadly. Development of technology to address public needs, as illustrated by these personally proximate examples, is not brand new nor unique. There's a rich history of attention to public needs in tech, including, of course, your broader globally focused ICT for D community. Akin to the earlier public interest law initiatives that emerged decades ago, I believe the term public interest tech was used as early as 2016, but really gained steam around 2018 and 2019 through support of the Ford and New America Foundations. Bruce Schneier owns the URL and the best single resource linking to articles about public interest tech. I applaud his treatment of public interest as a broad term. It reminds me of an early hero of mine from the internet community, John Postel, who said about protocol design, be liberal in what you accept and conservative in what you send. In this context, that encourages being broad and accepting work that wants to label itself as part of the community while not appropriating work that wants to intentionally stand apart. More recently, Hannah Schenk and Tara Dawson-McGinnis published this book, Power to the Public, bringing together their distinct professional backgrounds and experiences to lay solid foundations for the many of us hoping to contribute to technology in the service of the public sector and the public good. It's a blueprint for how governments and nonprofits can harness the power of digital technology to address public problems. It was a real treat being able to host their first in-person book talk at Cornell Tech a few weeks ago, which also happened to be our first in-person Cornell Tech event since the pandemic hit. We published an audio podcast of that discussion. If you want to listen to it, it's available on our website, or just send me an email. And now let me use that as my segue to spend the rest of this talk focusing on what we're doing to pursue the public interest tech vision at Cornell Tech in particular. Where many of the institutions in the New America funded Public Interest Tech University Network, of which we're delighted to be a part, started out with a focus on undergraduate education, our campus is uniquely dedicated to graduate education. So we began considering how to bring a public interest lens to our graduate campus in order to foster the next generation of innovators, leaders, and thinkers who will shape technology towards positive societal outcomes. We launched 3 new programs in our inaugural year: the PiTech Master Studio, the Visiting Practitioners Program, and PhD Impact Fellowship. The details are illustrative of how we, and hopefully others, can localize the implementation of public interest perspectives to best integrate into their institutions. This is an overwhelming 1-slide summary of what we've been up to. So let me unpack those 3 key components in the next few slides. First, PiTech Studio, which requires just a bit of context. Since our start in 2013, Cornell Tech has included a unique studio program in which all of our master's students across our many programs experience the development of real-world technology development with external mentors. When we launched in 2013, we offered just 1 studio flavor, Startup Studio, which of course continues to this day with many improving iterations and many launch startups to its credit. In 2017, we introduced another lane for students who were looking to work within established companies and wanted to learn about the experiences of being intrapreneurs. And then in this last year, in 2021, we launched PiTech Studio, led by Lael Resner. The goal of PiTech Studio is twofold: to introduce students to the growing and increasingly important role of technology in social change work, both as a lever for good and as a potential destructive force to be mitigated, and also to provide students with concrete tools and insights for launching and scaling technology-driven products and services and organizations that are intentionally focused on public interest needs, with specialized training around fundraising in that sector, as well as the integration of ethical risk assessment from the outset of a product's conception. This academic year, PiTech is an even more integrated part of our studio program, and I can't wait to see what sort of initiatives it launches. This fall, Lael and I also introduced the Visiting Practitioners Program, recognizing that while Cornell Tech has always engaged practitioners and mentors in our courses and our associated crit sessions, we lacked individuals with deep experience in serving the public interest. To that end, our VIP program brings the perspectives of leading public interest tech practitioners to the Cornell Tech community. Our VIPs are all working to ensure that developments in technology can help lead to a more just and prosperous future for everyone. And we're delighted to have them join our Cornell Tech community as advisors and collaborators, and to support them in their own cutting edge work. You'll notice we intentionally brought individuals working at this problem from very different angles, sectors, and in very different roles. From Roxanne Stafford, reimagining healthy media ecosystems, to Rhonda Allen, bringing social and racial justice to the heart of Silicon Valley, to Anjana Rajan, using cutting-edge cryptography methods to combat human trafficking and white supremacy terrorism, and Oscar Romero, pursuing inclusive innovation strategies in the New York City Mayor's office. Our third program launched this year is the Public Interest PhD Impact Fellowship, designed to give PhD students in technical fields a structured opportunity to apply their technical expertise to societal needs. For a bit of context here, most doctoral students in technical fields do at least one summer internship with a tech company. And it's an important experience that we don't want to replace, but we do hope to augment. So we created this alternative option that curates public interest tech experiences and matches and funds doctoral students to participate. We took this approach because when we spoke to our students, they pointed to not knowing where to start or how to choose a problem or a partner as the key impediment to acting on their desires to commit time and learn more about public interest technology. The PiTech Impact Fellow embeds PhD students from technical disciplines within nonprofit and public sector organizations based in New York. The fellowship provides an opportunity for these students to deepen and apply their expertise on behalf of the public interest and in a real-world context. PiTech Fellows work on a specific project that advances the organization's mission and that applies their skills in areas such as data analysis and machine learning, AI ethics and fairness, user-centered design, privacy and security, and emerging technologies broadly. Matthew Stempeck, formerly at Civic Hall and MSR, Microsoft Research, collaborated to bring the program to life. And we recruited a first cohort of students and hosting organizations for this past summer of 2021. Our inaugural PhD fellow placements included Yiqing Hua with the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, Ilan Mendel with Consumer Reports Digital Lab, Brianna Vecchioni with Blue Ridge Labs and Robin Hood Foundation, and Iran Zhao with New York City Kohler Hospital. In preparation for our second cohort planned for summer 22, Matt has led the curation of a rich portfolio of New York City and New York State-based host organizations, and we hope to grow the program, engaging a larger number of students from both the Cornell University, Ithaca, and New York City campuses. As we scale, and of course funding dependent, we hope to host an even larger annual cohort of doctoral interns drawing from around the country, as well as eventually expanding to postdoctoral fellows and faculty sabbaticals. We want to do this in order to foster the interdisciplinary and community engaged work that will shape technical innovation to address diverse societal needs. We would welcome other campuses who would like to adopt and iterate, improve on this concept, and work together to expand and extend the spirit of the Public Interest Tech University Network. In closing, the last few years has made clear to many the very mixed role that technology, and specifically digital technology, has played in both enabling and exacerbating, as well as alleviating many of the global challenges we all face. Clearly, higher education must honestly confront the role we have played in educating the individuals that have both wittingly and unwittingly been parties to these changes, and begin to make holistic changes ourselves. Specifically, we must re-examine the learning opportunities we create for our students and how we teach and model creation of new technology and technology-driven companies. To that end, PiTech at Cornell Tech is promoting nonprofit and public sector models, and along with our Digital Life Initiative, we're integrating a public interest lens across the core of our technology education by intentionally and rigorously considering the societal opportunities and impacts of new technologies and ventures. With that, I close and look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.